Today's date is January 1st, January 31st, 2024. We are here for the oral history program, and my name is Jacob Stickle. I am the archival assistant for Warren County.
My name is Tori Otten. I am the assistant archivist for Warren County.
My name is Debbie Rich, and I am Marvel's niece.
And my name is Jeanette Jackson, and I am Marvel's grandniece.
All right, and we're here with Ms. Marvel Ferguson. Is that right?
Right.
All right.
Marvel Rich Ferguson. My maiden name was Rich. I used that Marvel Rich Ferguson.
All right. And we're just going to go in with the childhood questions. When and where were you born?
Loveland, Ohio. At that time, they didn't have hospitals. Everybody was born at home. And we lived down in Loveland at the time.
All right. How did your family come to live in Loveland?
Well, I guess my grandparents, the Riches, was one of the original settlers.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Go from way back?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, what was the war to that?
We received 300 acres in Sims Township because our grandfather, 6 times removed, was an officer in the American Revolution. And then they bought another 300 acres from Judge Sims when they came out here.
Man. What were your parents like while you were growing up?
Oh, good parents. Mother and father, yeah.
And what were their names?
Hmm?
What were their names?
Minnie Schweitzer, Rich, and Edgar Rich.
Did you have any siblings with you?
I had two older brothers and a younger sister.
And what were their names?
Jacob Willard was the oldest, Virgil Samuel was the second, and my sister's name was Harriet Ella.
Good family? Were they a good family?
Oh, yes, yes.
That's always nice to hear. What did they do for a living, your parents?
Well, Dad worked for Peter's Cartridge Company and retired from there. And then we had a small farm besides.
All right. And you grew up in Loveland at the time?
No, we lived in Loveland until I was 10, and my grandmother died. My mother's mother passed away. And nobody in the family wanted to stay with my grandfather. Her sister had a store, and her brother had 6 kids, and they lived with him one time, and he didn't want their 6 kids back. They tore up so much, so that left us.
And you went up to, so you went from Loveland to where?
Hill Station.
Hill Station, gotcha. Well, would you mind describing the neighborhood you grew up in then?
Well, just in the country.
Same old small town?
Yeah.
Fair enough. What did you want to be when you were a child?
I wanted to go to be a nurse. You know, I was a nurse, but I never got a formal education. After I was married for a while, I had a lot of different jobs, but I was a doctor's assistant for 2 years or so.
All right. And what made you want to become a nurse?
I don't know. Well, I just thought that's what I'd like to do. I liked working in the doctor's office much better. I think that, I assisted with operations and, just general office work. And at the time I went to work for Dr. David Ward. He was at Pleasant Plains at the time. And he had a registered nurse that I worked under her, and they were great teachers.
All right. What was school like for you at the time?
Fine. I went to Loveland till I was in the 6th grade, and we moved when my grandmother died. We moved out to the country, and then I went to Goshen School.
Which she liked much better than Loveland.
Yes, yes.
How come? Why'd you like Goshen schools better than Loveland?
Well, the kids were more friendly, I think. They were more country kids than Goshen. Loveland was more, how shall I say it? Clannish, I guess. Certain people just kind of clan together. Where Goshen, they were all country out and more friendly.
I gotcha.
That being said, half of Loveland were our relatives.
Yeah, that's what I told one lady one time. I said, yeah, I used to be related to half of Loveland until all you foreigners moved in.
What lifelong hobbies did you pick up while you're growing up here?
Well, I didn't have any hobbies when I was growing up. I helped milk in the summertime and helped farm work. And then after I got married, we were in archery till we were in a car wreck, and then my husband couldn't shoot a bow and arrow anymore because of a neck injury.
Oh.
And then, well, let's see, what did we do after that? We
Got a boat on the river.
we had a boat on the river for about eight or 9 years.
And square danced.
Yeah, we used to square dance. They didn't have many square dances after we got married. And they used to have square dances all the time. Every Saturday night at Loveland. Well, it was 50-50 dances, half a square dance. They'd do a square dance and then they'd have a round dance, and then the altar did for the whole evening.
Her and her sister went to those before they were married. And who did you dance with?
I danced with a cousin, and my sister danced with her brother.
Her dad wouldn't let him dance with anybody
Oh
else.
no!
Yeah, we had to square dance with them. They would, they had 50-50 dances. They'd do a square dance, and then they'd have round dances. We danced with anybody then, but square dances we had to do. And there was usually at the square dances, there's 4 couples to a square, and usually the same 4 couples got together and formed for the square dances.
All right. And where did you guys square dance at? Local place in
Well,
Loveland?
the place is torn down now. It was there on Broadway in Loveland. It used to be a church, and then the fire department. Somehow or another, the church didn't finish it, and then the fire department bought the ground, and now they tore all down. It's just a bare field now, or a lot at the foot of Loveland Hill.
I guess you can still square dance on there, but I don't know if you want to. How's the world changed from when you were young? I know it's a loaded question.
Well, it's changed a lot. In a lot of ways it has, and these are for me. It was mostly horse and buggy, when I was a kid, and then we had a car, and, people started driving cars. They didn't use horses much to go then. Of course, you go twice as far, a lot less time with an automobile than you could with a horse and buggy.
Yeah, and when that stuff started to first turn out, what was the experience over here?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
When cars started to get introduced into Loveland, how was that for you guys? You guys take to it pretty quickly, or?
You mean after we moved out of Loveland into the country, or?
Oh, pardon me. Yes, when you started going out to the country.
Oh, wow. My sister and I loved the country, but my 2 brothers, they were already streetwise and they didn't like the country at all.
Tell them how you got your driver's license when the state of Ohio first required that.
Well, yeah. When I first started driving, I had got the first driver's license.
In the county?
Well, when they started, I guess the whole country started having driver's license.
What did you do to get it?
Nothing, just went and signed up for it. And
She did.
I think they were a quarter.
Yeah, she mailed a quarter in, and they mailed her thing back. Until this day, she's never taken a test.
That is amazing.
They just let you have it, huh?
Yeah, well, actually, they only done it because they wanted, the money for the, and as far as, you tried for your driver's license, they didn't even consider that. At that time, all they wanted was the money,
That makes a lot of sense.
Was it because they were going from mud roads to blacktop roads since cars were coming out, or was it just a money thing?
I think it was more money thing than anything. I was trying to think, I got the first driver's license. I had them for a long time. I kept I kept them every year. But now they don't give them back to you. And you have to register now, even if you don't drive, you have to register. And they charge you $2.50 to register as you're still living.
She had to renew her ID.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't need to go down there to do that. She didn't like to leave the house much. And I said, do you want to vote in the next election?
Oh, yeah.
And we went down there and got her a new ID, didn't we?
Heck of a way to motivate you, right?
Yeah.
Now they're gonna call you for jury duty.
Oh, I've done that already too. I served over in London, and then I was called to grand jury down in Cincinnati.
Did it feel really different whenever you would go from Loveland into the big city or
No.
from the country?
No, not really.
Yeah. I feel like Cincinnati is very approachable as far as big cities go.
Well, she took the bus to get down there.
I took a bus from Loveland to Montgomery Square, and then transferred to city bus, and then let us right out to courthouse.
Not bad at all.
Uh-uh.
Did you ever envy anybody out in the city? You're like, oh, maybe I can do this, but
I didn't understand what you
did
said.
you ever envy anybody in the city?
Yeah, I was on a trial down there for goodness, I don't forget how long.
Is she ever kind of jealous of anybody?
No.
No.
She's always liked staying in the country. They lived on the Hill Station for 3 years. Then I guess you were 14 when your mom and dad bought a house in Warren County. And she's been in Warren County ever since, 94 years.
Yeah.
Which I don't think we actually answered the question at the beginning, but what is your birthday?
When is my birthday?
Yeah.
September the 22nd, 1919.
She literally moved in with her parents, of course. When she was 14, they bought it because her grandfather passed away, and they bought their own house. And then when she got married, when she was 29, they built a house right across the street.
No, we built.
Oh, that's right. They went somewhere else for 5 years.
The first 5 years, yeah. Then we sold it, bought a little house, and moved in there, and lived there 5 years, and sold it for the same amount of money that we paid for it. So we practically lived there 5 years free.
And took all the furniture.
Oh, that's a nice deal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at the time we was married, you couldn't buy. They didn't have springs and furniture. You couldn't really buy much furniture because everything you had been for the war. So when we got married, the little house we bought all the furniture with it.
So they built you built your house in 1954. It's the very last house in Warren County before you cross the. And she's never moved. She's never wanted to go anywhere else. Her husband wanted to move a few times, and she said, "See ya." So she's made her claim here.
Well, you live in Mainville here, so how...
Well, this is my sister's house.
This is your sister's house?
Uh-huh.
How do you think that Mainville has changed in the past even 20 years?
Well, it has expanded. It used to be just, the streets here, but now they got the big subdivision back there. There's a lot of building up around.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about it on our drive here because I grew up in Warren County too, and I was telling Jacob and some of our other coworkers how different the Mainville and Pleasant Plain area is compared to even in the 1990s. And I can't even imagine what this looked like in the 1940s or 50s.
I mean, it hasn't changed that much, really. There's subdivisions
Just the
around,
subdivisions.
but the original streets and things are about the same.
Interesting.
Now that's one of the things I always enjoyed about visiting Aunt Marvel, her house in Warren County, and Grandma's house across the street. They own all the land around it, and that has never changed. It's the same view. They had like 22 acres on either side, and it's nice not to be able to see other houses.
All right. You can have those noisy neighbors on the other side, huh? You don't have to worry about them.
Yeah. This was my sister's husband's grandfather's place.
Oh, were they?
Okay.
I was gonna ask how long they were here. Like, did they build the house or?
My sister the house next door was not this house, but where this house is at. The old house tore down, built a new house. They owned all this, and they sold that off and then built this. Sold the house, just the house, kept most of the ground, just enough ground to go with the house that I had to, and kept the rest of the acreage.
Yeah, they built this house in 1955, and the barn in the back is older than the house.
How about that? Do you have any stories on how your family survived the Great Depression?
Well, my father worked for Peter's Cartridge Company, and he was fortunate. He really a big machine that loaded shotgun shells. So he worked all during the Depression. He worked 3 days a week. So we were fortunate with that, and then had moved out in the country after my grandmother died, and lived in the country. And then I went to Goshen School after we moved there. I went to Loveland. I was in the sixth grade when we moved to Goshen. And I finished school there.
They never went hungry in the Great Depression, did you?
Nope, we always had plenty to eat. And during the war too. My one brother and I didn't drink coffee, so you had rations, and each person got a coupon for coffee. So since my brother and I didn't drink coffee, and the rest of the family, they had all the coffee.
And they grew their own food, and they butchered a hog every fall, and
Yeah.
Grandma had dairy cows.
Well, when we lived with Grandpa, they butchered 2 hogs every fall. And then after we moved over where we had cattle, we didn't have room for any hogs. So we raised chickens, so we ate more chicken.
All right. You said that he worked only 3 days a week. Did he spend the rest of the time on the farm, or?
Well, he just odd things around, yes, 3 days a week. And well, we always had a garden to that.
And I suppose your mom did all the stuff on the home front and tended to the garden and whatnot?
Yeah. We lived with my grandfather after when we moved on the farm.
Mm-hmm. I had to take care of him too, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Did he appreciate it, or I know I've had some old family.
Well, yes, until we got interested in a lady, and then my mom's sister wanted what she had it all planned out. She was going to take him to Batavia and have him sign the farm over to her, mom's sister, and then she was going to get him married, and then they was kicking us out of the farm. but it all backfired. Grandpa got sick and died, passed out. I think it was just a worry.
So they're getting a whole plan set. And, All right. What did you do after your childhood? Did you go into work? Did you further in education?
I stayed home mostly, but I worked at different times, different places. I worked over at King's Mills on making albums, and I worked during the war. I worked out at Solo below Cincinnati and worked on the canned heat line. They had these cans that they put cotton in it and then put alcohol. Then it went to it had two lines, large cans and small cans. And they used these canned heats, as I understand, in the different food packages. I guess they set it for the people of the Army. And they had the small ones about that high, then the large cans were double high. And they could take the lid off, and they had asbestos in the hole. Lit that, and the GIs could use that as a stove. They could use a helmet, to put over it and heat soup and things up. I never seen one of the package, but as I understood, they fit in a food package, and it's for the Army.
Oh.
So during the war, when the cows were milking slow, she would go work on the canned heat line.
Yeah, I got to work with I work at nights. I was the second shift, really.
I never knew cows went through periods where they milked more or less. So you stayed busy, didn't you?
Wow.
You stayed busy.
Yeah.
You said it was down in Cincinnati. It was where you worked on the canned heat line?
And, it was at below Loveland at the...
On Twite Twee?
Yeah, at White Tweed. The Solo used to be there. And then they moved, after they bought it for a while after the war was over, but I don't know where they're at now. They moved away. They're still in, but they don't live there in Twite Tweed anymore. In fact, I don't know what is in that factory down there in Twite Tweed. I don't know what's down there.
I don't know. Was Totes for a while.
Well, it was a candy factory. It was what, and then they sold the candy factory.
Tell them that story about the Loveland Mint.
Well, yeah, they had sold Loveland mints, and then they sold it, but they weren't allowed to use that. What is it called? What is it now?
Peppermint patty, or York
Yeah.
patties.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They bought the recipe.
Yeah.
So they weren't allowed to make it in Loveland anymore. So it used to be the Loveland Mint before it was the York peppermint patty.
I love those things.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I just had some the other night with my grandmother. Yeah, I mean, it's the Hydrox to the Oreo, right? Unfortunately.
Well, and people have challenged Aunt Marv. Well, they've challenged me when I told him that story. And they're like, no, because York, developed it in, I can't remember the dates, but if you look at the York dates and you look at when they sold the candy factory date, it all lines up just like Aunt Marvel said, because her husband used to work there.
Yeah, when he was a kid before he went into service.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very random question for you, since you lived in a particular area of Loveland. Do you remember at all when the Loveland Frogman was first spotted?
Oh.
We occasionally get people who ask us about it, but I can never tell them anything because the government did not keep track of it.
I don't know. I think somebody was playing a big hoax. Was that really?
That's what I would like to tell people.
But there is a sheriff's report.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The Loveland Police Department saw him down on, Davis Road? Right along the river.
I thought it was on Twite Twee too.
I thought it was down there at the foot of Broadway.
Frogman got around.
He did. He's been spotted. I guess, is that when the police report was in the 40s? And then
I think there was another police report in the 70s.
yes, because then there was another one in the
two
70s.
times,
Yeah.
I think somebody's big imagination myself.
Did the frogman suddenly appear when they started doing moonshine along the river?
I don't know today.
I think that was it.
Oh dear.
Try to keep people away.
Oh, Lord. I was going to say, I thought it was the moonshine getting into the river or something. There's a lot of that going around at the time.
Well, when people started moving up from Kentucky, then they started having moonshine.
Oh, yeah.
And you could still make it during Prohibition. I didn't know that. Where were the places you could go get booze legally during Prohibition here in Warren County and parts of Loveland? Where did you guys tell them about when you would go get beer in a big jug when you were kids?
After they started the different beer joints around, you could take a gallon jug, and if you wanted to drink it whole, they just bring it to you, get up, fill up, what it costs, fill it up.
Wasn't there a house on Lebanon Road where you could go and drink on the back porch?
Yeah, that was during there wasn't, it was illegal in a way. But I had a certain place they would go out there and sit on the back porch, and I guess Dad paid so much of what they had a tin cup with big, had a handle on each side, and then fill that full of beer, and then you just pass it around the circle. You paid so much.
Now this she remembers. When they moved out to Hill Station when she was 10, Dad never took her back to Loveland to drink, did he?
No.
One of the other follow-up questions I was wondering about, since the war and everything going on, you mentioned you had brothers and family.
Yeah, two older brothers and a younger sister.
How were they all affected by war breaking out?
Well, my dad and my two brothers worked for Peter's Cartridge Company, and they got deferred. Virgil went in, but he had an enlarged heart, so he was only in 90 days. He had a discharge. But my brother and they were machinists, and him working for Peter's Cartridge Company. They all got deferment. They one that worked in munitions and that, and but just as I guess different people made so many remarks about him not being in the service. That the last year before the last year of the war, he gave up working in the ammunition factory and went in the Navy.
Oh.
But he was only in about a year or less.
He just had a bit of a...
And Virgil was in the Army, and he was in not quite a year, but he had an enlarged heart. He got a discharge, medical discharge.
I gotcha. Since nobody can see his enlarged heart, there was a bit of a stigma, people like say.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a pain.
But where she lived at in Warren County, she could, what kind of planes did you hear flying over during the war?
A whole group of left Dayton and used to pass right over. And we had a collie dog, and he would hear those planes about 10 or 15 minutes before we would, and he'd start barking and run around a circle, and we knew it was a flotilla of planes to go over coming from Dayton.
Oh man. Was that an often occurrence during the war?
Oh yeah, every so often. I don't know just how often, but yeah.
Probably went from 0 to 100 Different kinds of planes roll fast, huh? After the war, my grandmother always liked to talk about how, well, she had suffered from polio when she was growing up, and the influx of doctors and different people coming back in.
Mm-hmm.
How did it affect the area when you grew up?
I don't quite understand what you.
There was a bunch of different people coming back from the war. How did that happen, or how did that work out for you guys?
Well, people just pretty much come back to their homes. In fact, my husband had a reunion with his Navy group. He's in the Navy, and it was so surprising. Out of the original group from Loveland that went in the Navy, when they had the reunion, it was amazing how many of the men still lived in their home places. Had taken over. It was,
How old was Uncle Lonnie when he was enlisted for World War II?
oh, he was in the reserves. He must have went in when he was 16, and they called him up right away. I guess he was must have been 17 or so.
He was in it the whole time before technically
Yeah,
the U.S. was at war.
yeah.
What did they think when they heard that Pearl Harbor got hit?
He thought it was some woman. yeah, yeah. So,
Oh, Lord.
So I didn't realize then, like Uncle Lonnie, he went into the war when he was 15 or 16, so he never got to graduate from high school. And there were a lot of men in this area just like that,
yeah.
because they served.
Just throw them right in, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness.
One of the teachers at Loveland, though, how long ago has it been to that they had called all those fellows there to give them an honorary graduation, Loveland School?
It was about, when this sounds so, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Dave Volkman, he was an officer in, I forget which branch, but he tracked down names of all kinds of men, I guess maybe even women, from Warren County and Clearmont, but just this little area. And they had a special, well, it was the first year the new Loveland High School was built on Ridge Road. And they gave them all honorary high school diplomas at that point. And I guess how old was he then, like 70?
Yeah.
When he got his high school diploma?
I don't remember exactly today.
Mhm. So that was kind of neat. And all the men showed up to. Mm-hmm.
What was the incentive at that point to go back? Just to say you got it?
What, you mean, go back to school?
Yeah.
No, he would. I thought afterwards what I should have done when he come home was went down to talk to the school about him was he working, if he could have taken classes and really graduated from school. But I didn't. He probably wouldn't have done it anyway. He was so independent. But he had a photographic memory.
Oh wow.
He seen something and he knew it.
He remembered all those candy recipes from when he was 14 and 15.
Yeah.
He remembered what mattered, right?
Hmm?
He remembered what was important to him, right?
Yeah.
Because tell him why that's important that he remembered that. Tell him about that company in Virginia that offered him a job.
Oh yeah. Their candies recipes they're very strict with them, and he went to I forget it's a well-known one, and when he went in for the interview making candy, he asked him, if he knew the different recipes, and he said yes, and he asked him about them, and he said no. He said, if I worked for you, I wouldn't give your recipes to anyone else. Same as I've got these recipes, I would give them to anybody else.
Touche.
I didn't realize that was that much of a competition, I guess you'd say, between candy factories.
The guy said if Uncle Lonnie would have given him the recipes, he wouldn't have hired him.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
How did you meet your husband anyway?
Well, in a small town, everybody knew everybody, but we, I don't know. It was one Sunday afternoon. Harriet's husband and my husband had been working together at Columbia Recordings, and it was on Sunday afternoon. And they said, "Well, they wish they knew a couple of nice girls to go out with." And I don't know what Harriet went out with her husband. It was his brother a time or two. And one of them said, well, they knew it too. They came over one Sunday after, and wanted us to go to the show with them. But at that time, Harriet and I and a cousin and a friend, a girlfriend, the four of us, we went to shows, things together. And we'd already made plans to go to the show that evening. We told, no, we couldn't go. We had other plans. We didn't believe in dropping one person off if you thought you could improve yourself with someone else. You did your commitments. And so he said, okay, so we made arrangements to go to June the 18th. We had our first double date.
I take it went well?
Yeah, everything went real well. She married him and I married Lonnie.
All right. I believe this is the album from the wedding.
Well, that's actually her life.
Oh, flipped it.
And then the other one is what it looked like in this part of Warren County from, what does that say, on the cover, 1810?
1910 to 1980.
Yeah. So.
Let's be something to help you. Look through.
Can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it. I gotcha.
So what year did you get married?
What year did I get married? 19... What year was it?
53, maybe?
No, it was in the 70s.
What year did you and Uncle Lonnie get married?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think. I can't think of the 70... It was right after one was the war over, 70.
I think the war was over in 52.
Yeah, how long were you guys married when he passed away?
That's a good question too.
It's over 50 years, we know that.
Yeah.
It's more
Yeah.
closer to like probably 60,
Yeah.
65.
And how did that go for you? I mean, over 60 some years, right?
We were married. We celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. Had a big party, and we was married. Let's see, he died in what was it, January or February?
Well, it was 2007 when he passed away. Aunt Marvel and I have always been very close. I've always either visited her on Saturdays or called her on Saturdays. So her husband died the same year I was divorced. So we just started talking to each other daily because we were two new single women, weren't we?
Yeah.
So, and that's how we ended up going through her house. We found those love letters written to her grandfather, and then we just kind of became obsessed with that. So I started reading the letters to her, and she started telling me all these other stories. And we decided we need to write this down. And she was 98 years old when we started writing that book. So.
And then you published it in 20...
Right after her
Yeah.
103rd birthday, a local publisher picked it up.
Man.
So half the book is slightly modified real love letters, and then the other half of the book is the stories behind the love letters. One of my favorite stories in the book is, tell them the story about the first time your grandma was in a machine with you, a car, and you guys were going down that hill in Gnomesville.
Oh, went to the fair in Owensville. You went a horse and buggy. When you come to a steep hill, everybody had to get out, and then they had to kind of block the wheels of the buggies because the horse couldn't hold back. And Owensville Hill was real steep. So the first time my grandma was Dad's mother's with us, and we jumped over and was going to the fair. Stop the car, stop the car. We get out. Oh, you don't have to get out of the car anymore. Get out in the horse and buggy.
The one thing I found was amazing is when at 10 years old, when they left Loveland to go to Hill Station, they gave up electricity, or they didn't have electricity on Grandpa's farm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that must have been a fun transition.
Yeah.
Probably another reason why the boys didn't like it, huh?
They missed being able to run around the streets of Loveland.
What was the average day for you, either as a child or later on when you were married?
I didn't understand you.
What was the average day for you, either when you were a child or later on when you were married?
What were your daily activities? Like,
Oh,
yeah.
about the same, I guess.
Always had something to do with a cow.
Well, the first 5 years that we lived before we were going to build our house, I didn't have milk
Yeah, but
cows.
she didn't have cows for 5 years.
Yeah, I was
Did you milk before you went to school, Aunt Marvel?
No, I did milk when I went to school. I milked at night when I got home, but not in the mornings.
How
Okay.
many cows did you guys have?
Oh, we milked anywhere from 12 to 16 at a time, depending, We tried to breed so you'd have milk, so the heavy milkers in the winter as well as the summer. Try to keep an even amount of milk coming in.
Did you ever use the milk to make other dairy products like cheese or no?
You made butter.
Yeah, well, didn't make butter till after we sold. It was all married and sold all the cows, and Mom only had 1 or 2 cows, and then she made butter.
Oh, well, that's why you had time to make the butter then. You only had 2 cows.
Yeah, and 1 cow. She had just 1 cow, as old as she was.
Nancy?
No, shoot, I forget what her name was now. We had them all named.
And Aunt Marvel just loves milk, don't you? She won't touch it.
We got them drinking, what's that new milk she'll drink that year?
Oh, Silk.
This
Oh.
Because it's not milk.
You want anything to do with milk.
She does like a milkshake though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We both.
And then
Chocolate.
Oh.
when she got married, then she got beef cattle.
yeah.
What kind of cattle?
Old Hereford. We had the grand champions in all 3 counties of Old Hereford.
Her and her husband.
Yeah, after we had.
Oh, how many times? All 3 counties? How many times?
Oh, let's see. I think at least 4 years we had grand champions in all 3 counties.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. How did well, I suppose you worked on the cattle farm for a while. How did that change through the years?
What do you mean the cow? Well, with milk, you had altogether different things to go by than if you had beef cattle.
Mm-hmm.
When you milked, they sent somebody out to inspect your farm every so often to see that your barns were kept clean and that. then you had to got a permit to ship milk. But with beef cattle, you didn't have to do any of that.
When you had dairy cattle, did you ever sell milk to some of the local creameries, like the French Brothers?
They had, people had milk routes, and we shipped, I can't even remember the dairy down Cincinnati that we shipped to.
But you would gather the cream and ship the cream to Cincinnati on a train?
No, that was before they had milk routes. They shipped cream then, and then after they had milk routes, people didn't ship cream. You ship milk. They had wagons or trucks come around, and every person had a number, and you put on your milk can, 10-gallon milk cans, your number, and then they shipped, and they weighed the milk, and then you got paid for how many pounds of milk you sent in.
And was this like around the 1930s, 1920s?
It was in, see, I graduated in 37. We were shipping milk then, and I guess it had just started, for about 5 years, it started shipping.
The reason I love that story is because, you know, I could just see all these things getting shipped, all these milk buckets, cans to Cincinnati. And like she said, everybody that had a farm had a number. And I think Grandma's was 91. Now, it was her mother's cow, so it was her mother's cream, and everything was attached. That number was her mother. It was her mother's company. And for a woman in the 1930s to have her own business, I just thought that was great. And we still have that too, don't we? We still have one of those cans with her number on it.
That's awesome.
Well, Dad worked over at the King's, Peter's, King's Mills all the time.
Now, your mom also worked at Peter's Cartridge Company in like the 1920s before she was married.
Yeah, before she was married. She worked in she didn't work in where they made the shotgun shells. She worked over the cartridge. I don't know exactly what she did do. I guess she packed the shells.
If you look at pictures of the employees from that time period, they had like maybe 20 women in one room, and she was one of those 20. So.
I've seen that photo.
Yeah, one of them women's my grandmother. I'm like, yeah. So how would she get to work from Hill Station to King's Mill?
She stayed in a boarding house on 3rd Street, and then they caught the train up to King's. But she lived at the boarding house during the week, and went home on the weekends.
And why didn't she come home? The boarding house was in Loveland. Why didn't she come
Yeah,
home?
the boarding house. Well, they come again. I never.
What I was trying to get to is Grandma didn't come home every night after work from King's Mill because there were no roads.
Yeah.
She'd have to get off the train and track through the fields
Yeah.
to get home. So she would stay in Loveland where they had sidewalks.
Yeah. So she said she stayed in town.
And she was like, what, 16, 17 years old then?
I rather imagine. Well,
This would have been
was
1920,
She was 29 when she got married.
Impressive woman. We come from a line of impressive women, don't we, Aunt Marvel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Our record center is named after a lady who used to work at the cartridge factory as well. Her name was Edna Boyer, and her family was from the Kings Mills area, and Edna was born, I believe, in the 19-teens as well, and worked at the Peters Cartridge Factory and became the Warren County Recorder in the 1960s through 80s. But
Now, the pressing plant that she talks about that her husband and brother-in-law worked at was Peter's Cartridge Factory.
Yeah.
It's when they quit making ammunition, they started pressing records.
Columbia, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And then there was an album company was in there for a while too that made the albums.
Columbia?
Huh?
Columbia Records?
No, I forget what the name of the album company. The Columbia Records were there in one part, but the album company was separate from them. They might have been in connection somehow or another, but I worked for the album company.
She told me back in the day when you worked at Peter's Cartridge Company, you got a weekly paycheck. If you worked in the ammunition side, you also got funeral insurance. It's true.
You needed it.
That was the only benefit.
When they hired, that was not in the factories, but that was in the powder company. They hired there $1 a day in funeral expenses.
Oh man.
The amount of accidents they had there, I think that was probably a good choice.
Yeah. A lot of people smoked back then too. So.
Well, I don't think they didn't have too many accidents, but any time they had them, they were very severe because somebody always lost their life.
Yeah, I think the really bad one was in 1890. So you wouldn't have been alive for that one.
I was surprised through her stories how much of our family has worked there. I mean, I guess they were like one of the employers in this area.
Well, yeah, the King's Mills, that's a lot of people that came up from Kentucky to get out of the coal mines and came up to work. But, that was one of the big joy cards.
So like her mother worked there in the 1900s. Her husband worked there in the 1960s. And who knows everybody else in between, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like, wow.
Man. So through the years, how did your family change?
What do you mean?
After you got married?
Well, we each had our own homes. We were always told when you're old enough to get married, you're old enough to start your own house. You don't move in. So that was a known fact. When you planned on getting married, you planned on getting your own home.
Did you enjoy having your own house?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
But what changed with her house was she went from a party line to a private line.
Oh.
And she was part of the decision to bring the water into her house instead of a cistern.
Oh.
These are pretty big changes.
Oh yeah.
Tell them why Cincinnati Bell gave you a private line in the basement. That's a great story.
Well, Lonnie, he had archery equipment, and they had a flood in Loveland, and they had somebody on the phone.
Yeah, we're trying to stop it.
So, there he
What were you
goes.
talking- Oh!
Well, now we have a lovely dog right there in the photo. Great.
There we are, old guy.
She said, "You call me lovely." I don't hear that often.
No, everything is perfectly fine. We have the strangest events happen when we're at work filming too. Don't worry.
It happens. You know, we had the elevator right there on the other side of the wall, and that's always going off, making noise, and
Yeah.
it happens.
So the story, are we filming now? I'll
Yes,
just tell you that
yes.
we are. Well, the significance of it is, the fact that you've got a phone was pretty neat, a dedicated phone line, no party line. But Aunt Marvel had 2 phones.
Ooh.
And they gave her a second phone down in the basement as a thank you to her husband. And why did he tell him that story? Why Cincinnati Bell gave you a dedicated second phone line?
Because they had a flood down at Loveland, and they needed a phone line over at Branch Hill at, let's see, what's the name? Loveland. Oh, what is the name of it's not Branch Hill, but it's there down there along the river. Anyway,
I mean,
huh?
it's on the tip of my tongue. Sleepy Hollow?
No, they need a line across from the river road across the river. Someone was sick over there, and they need to get a line. The lines were down, and they wanted to get a temporary line. And Lonnie had a foot bow, and so they got a hold of him to use his foot bow to shoot a line across the river, so they could get electric over.
Yeah, so one county, I guess, one county didn't have electric, because Loveland's in 3 counties, so one county didn't have electric because of the
Branch Hill,
flood,
it was not Branch Hill.
and the other county did. So he shot a line over with his feet to the other county, for the electric company and the phone company. And as a thank you, they gave, because he was going to start an archery business, they gave him a dedicated line in the basement as a way to say thank you. But they were only supposed to receive calls.
Yeah.
But she could make outgoing calls too.
Yeah.
Oh, a whole archery business too, huh?
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Well, when they had the flood in Loveland, the water was clear up over at they called it the roundhouse there by the bridge, and the furnace was in the basement, and it was all covered with water, and it was dry. And the man that was up there had just got over pneumonia, and they was concerned about him, and if they could get electric heaters over there, well, they could have some heat, and so my fellow that was in archery with us, Lonnie just got home from work. It got midnight. Just got in bed. Called him up. Need you down to Loveland with his bow and arrow and flight arrows. They need the line across from the foot of Broadway over to the roundhouse there in Loveland. So they just laughed. He said up down the road, down the river. They were talking, different ones, and John Fritz was the police chief then. He was telling him I was going to shoot a line over, and they just laughed and made all kinds of manners of fun about doing. Nobody had ever done it before, and they had a gooseneck light out. So I told him turn that light on, but stand way back. He didn't intend to shoot it, but you can't tell what might happen, and flash, get pieces of glass, So they did, and he shot over to get his distance, and then he used a fish arrow head with a sharp, and then he used a regular string on the arrow, tied, and he had tied to the fishing line, and he had the reel that was on his bow was a big round, like a dish pan, and it fed off the line real fast. So they were talking back and forth by bullhorn, and he told him to stand back from the window. He didn't want to hit it, but he might accidentally hit it. He was going to use this gooseneck light to judge his distance. And so they did that, and he shot and decided what his distance was. And then they had the electric, and they wanted some heat over there. And when the man that was working there just got over pneumonia, and they had electric upstairs, but the furnace was downstairs, and they needed some heaters. So he shot a line over, and then he told them to stand back. He was going to shoot towards the window, but for them to stand away. And he was going to shoot at the foot of the window, for him to get the line, to make a double line so they could start sending supplies over. And they were talking on the ham radio, and they just made all manners of fun about him shooting a line over there. But you know, after they done that, found out that out west, when they started putting electric lines there through the mountains, guess what they used? They used the archery.
Kept in business then, huh?
Yeah,
And you both picked it up, huh?
yeah. Yeah, we both shot. I shot for fun, he shot for real.
Was it a competitive scene or for hunting or
Well,
all
well,
manner?
we shot the line on the line, and we shot field.
A bit of everything then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple more general questions here. This is pretty broad, so I understand if it's a...
Okay.
What significant events occurred over your lifetime that you would say had a great impact on you? Like, we talked about the Great Depression, but we can include Vietnam War, JFK, Civil Rights Movement, Watergate, that sort of thing.
Well, I guess we were sitting around the Sunday dinner in Pearl Harbor was the biggest shock.
Oh, man. Did you guys all sit around the radio to hear?
No, we were at dinner, sitting around the dinner table, and it came over the radio.
Do you remember the mood of the room at the time?
Yeah, well, I understand.
And do you remember the mood of the room, how everybody felt when you listening
Everything
in?
just went quiet.
A scary
We
moment.
were sitting at the table eating and just finishing up, and then after it just, it's kind of such a shock that you don't, I don't know, you kind of go kind of numb at first.
I'd imagine so. Do you remember other events like 9/11 pretty well?
Yeah.
Similar vibe?
Mm-hmm. Similar to it.
Do you remember events like Watergate?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I remember having the trials. I didn't pay. You listen, but you didn't really understand a lot of the stuff that's going on anyway.
Mm.
One thing that happened, I don't remember, that she told me, and then I was talking to my mother-in-law, who's 20, 30 years younger, and she's like, oh yeah, you couldn't turn the TV on and not see that woman. Who was the woman, single woman, who started the initiative to take prayer out of the schools?
Oh, I
Madeline.
forget her name.
You remember her too?
Yeah. Madeline
Yeah.
O'Hare
Yeah.
or something like
And
that.
you know what? When she died, she was a Christian. After she caused
Yeah.
all that controversy.
Yeah, I remember that one real
Do
clearly.
you guys remember that? I don't either.
Yeah,
It was a one-woman crusade, and she took
and I'm 99% sure it's Madeline O'Hare.
She took prayer
Yeah.
out of school, and sometimes I like to just wonder what today would look like if prayer had stayed in school.
I can't say I heard of that story, no. I'll have to look her
Google
up
it.
later.
You'll be
Yeah,
able
because
to
my
see.
mother's
yeah.
life's like, oh, you couldn't turn
Yeah.
the TV on and not see that woman.
I'll have to look
What?
into that
When
one.
would that have been? The 60s? The 70s?
I think 60s.
The
I'm pretty sure it
60s?
was the 60s, yeah.
And then to die a Christian and apologize.
Yeah, she was such a,
Ooh.
you know, I don't want to call her evil, but she was controversial.
Controversy.
Yeah.
So going through more of the generic questions, what would you say is the greatest invention of your lifetime?
Greatest invention.
You didn't really like carrying water in the house every day.
Well, we did that for a long time. Yeah, I guess making things comfortable. The electric, I would say, would be the greatest invention because there's so many offshoots that you get, from it, the effects of it.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a catch-all too.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't mind those things with wheels, did you? That you drove?
I don't know, after she told me how they did laundry, I'm like, okay, I'll never complain about doing laundry again.
Wash basins and clotheslines, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those those ringers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, for a long time you didn't even have a ringer. You run them all out by hand.
You've had a lot of great inventions. None less than the microwave.
She still calls the refrigerator the icebox.
That's a way better name anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think my grandmother still has an ice box, actually. She keeps it more as a piece of furniture than anything else, though.
Uh-huh. Jeanette's got a big one out there.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, might as well keep it around.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is the greatest challenge of your life?
Oh, the greatest challenge. Oh, I don't know. I guess it's all a challenge when you went from one thing to another.
You weren't challenged with much because you've always been full steam ahead. I mean, she was one tough lady.
You can ask her to do something, but don't tell her.
Yeah.
That's
Do
the riches. The whole riches are like that.
You asked.
So it started with her and with you. Yep. Yeah.
Did you have to deal with any natural disasters? You mentioned there was a flood at Loveland at one point. Did you have to deal with anything on your home, like a tornado,
No,
fire?
We lived in Loveland, but we were out of the flood district.
Oh, that's thankful.
Yeah.
Now, why did your husband say he was glad you lived in Warren County and not Loveland when you guys started dating? What did his mother say?
I don't remember that.
You were one of the few girls his mother didn't have any stories about because you weren't in town.
Oh. Yeah.
She couldn't talk about you.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and it's funny. I mean, we're just talking a few miles, and the culture's so different.
Mm-hmm.
Still feels that way in a lot of Warren
It,
County.
it does.
Which
I like.
Aunt Maud was living in Loveland then, and a lady had a store in her house right next door to where Lonnie's folks lived, and Aunt Maud went over there, and Harriet and I was sort of her. Well, Aunt Maud named me, but we were, I guess, sort of her favorite kids. And Lonnie said one thing, he's glad I lived out of town. They didn't have new stories to talk about me.
What are some of your fondest memories?
Some of my fondest memories.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gee, I don't know. I have all good memories of home life.
Mm-hmm.
She had a lot of fun memories because we
Yeah.
had her 104th birthday party. She had a lot of people come for that party that are our memories. I think her marriage is one. I think she had a storybook marriage. Tell them a little bit about your marriage to Lonnie, your life, you and Lonnie.
Oh, we played a lot.
Yeah.
We at an archery club. Then he had headaches for a lot, and they couldn't figure out what it was. And finally, he had a pinched nerve in the back of his neck. Went in the hospital, had that operated on, and on the very day that he was allowed to go in a car, we went to Dayton. I wanted to shoot at a certain shoot they had up there, and coming home and we were waiting to go across the 3C highway. Some kid, we were the last car in a line of about 8 or 10 cars, and some kid come in down a big Buick. Wade was present. I had just taken my foot off the brake. The line just started to move. And I guess when he looked away, he seen the light went off. He didn't put his brake on, and he hit us head on with that Buick. That was a miserable year. If he had been if he had hit this way, been sitting this way, it would have probably killed him outright. But there was the three of us sitting in the front seat. I was driving. And this girl, she wanted to sit by Lottie, but said she couldn't ride in the back seat, so she sat in the middle. And Lottie, when we were stopped waiting for the cars to go by, he got up and was sitting kind of sideways, and that's probably the only thing that saved him from being killed. Instead of hitting him this way, he hit sideways. But it messed up his...
That's still a fatal intersection, 48 and
Yeah,
22 and 3 now.
yeah.
When you get the turn arrow, it's like one car gets to turn, one.
Oh, that's scary.
Well, and then your involvement with the Indians too, you know? Huh?
Her husband was Cherokee.
Oh.
Oh. A lot of fun stuff.
But she doesn't like to watch movies. How come you don't like to watch movies, Aunt Marvel?
How come I do or don't?
Don't.
Because I watched so many of them. I've practically seen them all that you guys are watching.
That's what they would do. They'd go down to was it at the town hall in Loveland?
And
And they would watch
yeah, and then
3 movies a week. And where did you watch all these movies at?
No, we watched 4 a week.
Well, tell us about them.
Wednesday night was Monday was the night you registered to win money. I won $40 over at Lebanon on bank night. And they did your ticket, you know, and then you got a ticket and they kept on the other and they dropped it in, and then they draw a number out, and whoever that number was, the amount of money that they had was what you got. I got $40.
They called that bank night?
Yeah, bank night. So we went to bank night on Wednesday night at Lebanon and bank night Thursday night at Loveland.
And then you said there was 2 other movies you'd go see? You'd see
Yeah,
one on
then
Sundays?
on Saturday nights we went to Loveland to the show, and on Sunday after church we went to the late show at Lebanon.
And did you start going to all these movies when they were still silent pictures?
Oh no, they were movies.
They were real movies with sound then?
Yeah.
And they were mostly westerns, right?
During the week were westerns, and on Mondays and Thursdays, but on Saturdays and Sundays was regular different movies.
So anyway,
Not
I
Western.
like to watch a movie every once in a while, and she's just like, nah, I've seen enough.
Yeah.
Did you do that before you were married?
Oh,
You went to
yeah.
the movies 4 times a week before you were married?
Yeah.
And she got married when she was 29.
Oh, man.
Then after we got married, we never went to the movies anymore. We took up archery. We went in archery. And then after he got hurt and he couldn't shoot anymore, then what did we go into? We went to archery, and then we started raising cows.
And then you had the boat.
Yeah, that's right. We had the boat for 8 years down on the Ohio River.
You guys just drive it around or fish or?
Both.
Fair enough.
It was large enough we went down on the weekends and slept on it. And he liked to fish. He liked to put in a trot line. And he liked the regular fish too. And then we spent our vacations on our boat on the river.
She said the years they lived on the river and ate nothing but fish, her arthritis didn't hurt her.
Uh-huh.
I'll have to keep that in mind.
I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess you had arthritis when you were a child.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, when I was about, I wasn't going to school. I had it just hit so bad I couldn't walk.
Because you had to walk to school. That was when you were in Loveland, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And then she was on the first motorized school bus.
Yeah.
How did tell them what a hack was, and then how they ended up getting school buses. I think that's a fun story.
Well, the hack was just a wagon made it, had sides and they had 2 rows of seats on it, and a team of horses pulled a hack.
This is in Warren County, right? That's how you went to school in Warren County? On a hill station?
No, Goshen, yeah. I
Yeah.
went to Goshen, yeah. When we lived in Loveland, we walked to school.
And then why did, who created the first school bus in your area?
The whole school, and George Ritter lived out by the hill. At that time, the bus drivers, whoever could afford a bus was a bus driver. They had so many routes.
And she remembers the name. Yeah.
Oh, hey, it helps. Whoever could have afforded it.
But yeah,
Oh, wow.
So did they pay the bus driver?
Yeah.
Or was this just community work?
No, the school paid them.
Okay, so if
Okay.
you could afford to buy your own bus, then the
Yeah.
school would pay you to take the kids around. But that was a big deal though, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
To take a school bus?
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
What year was that you got to start using buses?
The first year we moved up with Grandpa, what was it?
1932.
Yeah. Before that, they had they called them hacks, the horse-drawn buses, hacks.
I wish my grandmother would still complain about how she had to walk to school when she was little. She would have appreciated anything, I think.
Well, when you lived in if you lived within a certain radius of school, you had to walk whether there were school buses or not.
Mm.
Now your mother, she never graduated from high school, did she?
No, 4th grade.
Because it was a transportation issue, right?
Yeah. Well, half the kids, they had to walk to school, and in real bad weather, they didn't go to school. Maybe a lot of times they didn't have shoes enough to go to school.
Right. So now where'd she go to school at? I don't remember.
She went to Goshen School.
Your mom did too?
Uh-huh.
And did your father what was his education?
Huh?
Did your father go to school too?
Up to the 4th grade. They both went. I don't think kids ever went much over past. Very few kids went past the 4th grade. Most Dad didn't go because he didn't want to. When they couldn't afford to. He didn't want to.
Oh, yeah. That sounds about right for a 4th grade kid. What would you say you're most proud of?
My understanding. What did you ask me?
What would you say you're most proud of?
Oh, gee.
Climbing up in that fire truck last year for Hamilton Township.
Oh, they made you climb up that?
No, she wanted to.
She wanted to.
Took us a ride around. You got to ride on too, didn't you?
Yes,
Dad?
I did.
We rode around. They took us a ride. Where did they take us to? Just around the block?
Mm-hmm.
She's got the video. It was
Fantastic. I was gonna ask.
A lot of people said it was worth coming to the party just to watch the firemen in awe. Because she took her walker and just, and the driveway goes downhill and she's like, and they were teasing one of the firemen saying, she gets up there better than you. And they were being serious. And I'm like, oh, this poor guy, I know they're going to really yank his chain for the next decade. That 103-year-old, well, that's your 104-year-old.
But he lifted me up or helped.
Yeah.
He balanced me. I'd climb up.
She just climbed right up there.
And then she wrote. She was Miss Loveland there, and for July 4th. Remember, she got
Yeah, she's in the parade last year.
Yeah, she rode in the convertible with the mayor.
Oh,
Yeah. And what kind of a car was that? A little Chevrolet?
A LeBaron.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think her secret what did you say? You say, stay social and keep learning.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it, I bet.
A lot of people ask me why she's still so fantastic at her current age, and I say no processed food. I mean, even as I was a kid in the 70s, if it ran across their yard, they shot it and ate it. And I'm saying that respectfully, aren't I?
Yeah.
I mean, rabbit, groundhog, deer, I don't care. And I like telling the story about Uncle Lonnie when he shot the rabbit in the forehead before he went to work.
Oh,
He blew that dart?
Down the basement?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had it, well, he couldn't catch him, so he decided he'd just shoot him. And he shot it right between the eyes.
Not with the gun, it was with the
With
dart.
a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
And a regular sharp point arrow. And the arrow was sticking right in his head. And the rabbit just sat there and looked at him. And I was upstairs. I watched. I heard him say, "Well, fall over, you're dead."
He said, "You should be dead by now."
Yeah.
Now, was that an arrow that that was like through a,
He made
he blew it, didn't it? One of those
oh,
kind of things?
yeah.
Yeah.
Blow dart.
Yeah, that's how he killed the rabbit with the
It was blow gun.
right
Sounds very
before he went to
talented.
work. Yeah.
Oh man, there's just stuff around the house to shoot something with, right?
That was the thing going, well, still to a certain degree, you never knew what you were going to eat when you went to Aunt Marvel's. I'm serious. We had Debbie scared a little bit yesterday because she didn't know what the hamburgers were made out of.
And if you notice,
I noticed it was still there.
You don't ask. You just eat it.
She said, "Dear," I said, "No."
Turtles. I remember as a kid going and they had all these turtles lined up in their driveway from the river, and or when that tornado came through a couple of years ago, I went in their freezer and I got 20-year-old squirrels and feathers. I don't know what that was in there for, and all kinds of stuff. But if it's wrapped right, it's still good, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He double wrapped everything.
Who would you say is your greatest influence you've had as a child or an adult?
I didn't understand.
Greatest influence that somebody's had over you? Like, who would that be?
Oh, I guess my mother most of all.
You stick around her a lot when you were a kid?
Mm-hmm.
Probably taught you a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah.
I think anybody that knew Grandma would say that.
Mm.
She
The
was
first words that come to mind is that she was a wonderful woman.
I've never heard anybody say anything bad about her. And she just worked hard. I went to like my 40-year class reunion, and someone said they still remembered a show and tell I did, like in 1974. It was because Grandma, Aunt Marvel's mom, we took some cream and put it in a mason jar, and I gave it to the class and had them shake it, and by the time it got back up to me, it was butter. And they still remember that. So.
That's a wonder. Would you remember?
But yeah, Grandma was great.
How has life turned out differently than you imagined?
I didn't understand you.
How has life turned out differently than you imagined?
I don't guess he never. I didn't imagine any more than what I've already been through. I guess it's a lot more than I ever thought I'd ever do.
What would you say is going to happen in the future? Any guesses? Foretellings?
No. I think I've done my whole route.
We'd like our book to become a movie and Meryl Streep play Aunt Marvel, huh?
Well, that would be something.
You would pick Meryl Streep? Which actress would you pick?
Oh,
You.
that's Jeanette's line.
Do you have any advice to give anybody listening in or watching?
Well, I'm sorry I didn't understand you.
Do you have any general advice to give anybody watching or listening to the video?
No, not do the best you can with what you've got.
I'd say that's reasonable advice.
And to stay social and keep learning, right?
And pray.
And have
Yes.
more good days than bad days.
She's always been very active in church. She's always taken church very seriously.
I would imagine community has a big part of that too. Church and community.
Right.
Is there anything else that you would like to add that we didn't already ask?
I can't think of anything else. Can you, or you two think of anything else?
No, she's like, she's spent 94 years in Warren County in one spot and has been very happy.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I think I'll stay in Warren County.
All right. Would you like to add anything else about your book?
Oh, Hunting Wildflowers?
Yes, absolutely.
What does that mean, Aunt Marvel, the title, Hunting Wildflowers? When Grandpa would go hunt wildflowers, what was he really doing?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Right.
Yeah, he was almost 80 years old, and she was 62 this moment. He met her at the fair.
Mm-hmm. And a relationship ensued.
Yeah.
So, it was so funny. One of her friend's daughters bought her a book. You know, now, again, Aunt Marvel's 103 when it was published. So they're like, now you know Marvel wrote this book. It could be a little racy. And this was one of her friends from the church.
And she's gone to some signings, some book signings.
Yeah, she's gone to book
We
signings.
guys went to the Goshen Library. We took her to the Goshen Library for a meeting, a book club not that long ago.
Right, and the book's at the Golden Lamb in Lebanon, and it's also at the Lebanon Library.
Nice.
And they did a podcast, and Mulberry Books did an event with local writers. I mean, Warren County's just been really great. Really, really has been. And the Goshen Historical Society carries the book. If you really want to know what it was like during the Great Depression here, it's all her memories from the Great Depression. And I had 3 different fact checkers go through it before it was published, and not one of them corrected anything she said. So I can't say that about my memory. So.
There we go. Well, this concludes the whole history here, and thank you all for coming. Thank you all for letting us record.
Thank you.